Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jane Belau. We have 4 guests this week, and it's really a privilege to introduce the 4 representing 4YourChildren.org, right? All right. And so they're running for a position on the Rochester School Board as a group, and they would like to change some things, and we'll talk about what they would like changed. And first, I'd like to have them introduce themselves to our viewers and voters, starting with Elena Niehoff and Ray Parker and Kim Rishavi and John Whalen. And we'll start with you, Elena.
Jane, thank you so much for inviting us to have this interview. It is a great privilege to come here, and it is a great privilege to speak to the people of Rochester. I'm running for the school board, position number 6. My name is Elena Niehoff, and I would like to tell the story. I was born in a different country, and I immigrated, my family and we immigrated from Ukraine. We have seen the difference between the socialism and the capitalism. We also acknowledge that the people of the United States are so generous and kind. And I would like to say, it has been hard for me to see that in Rochester there are fallen academics and lack of discipline, and also there is a problem with the budget. So I decided to step in this position and with my wonderful mates run for the school board to make the difference. We stand for the academic achievements, great discipline in the schools, and balanced budget. Thank you.
Our second candidate is Ray Parker. Ray.
Thank you. As she said, my name is Ray Parker. I'm running for seat number 2 at the Rochester School Board. And I first got involved with this because of all the violence that has been happening in the schools and concerned about my grandchildren. So that's a big important part. But then the academics, which have been constantly and consistently dropping and dropping and dropping, and we need that to change. So that's another big reason. The other one is just seeing the push towards other indoctrinations that really we don't want to see come into our community. And so those are the 3 big reasons. But of course, fiscal responsibility is also big on the agenda. That's why I'm running.
Okay. Our third candidate is Kim Rishavi. And Kim?
Hi, I am Kim Rishavi. That is Kim Rishavi. I am running for school board seat number 5. I got involved in this when I was asked by the other 3 candidates running for school board. And I was born and raised in Rochester, Minnesota. I went through the Rochester Public School, as well as my husband of 37 years. We have 2 children who also went through the Rochester Public Schools. We all graduated actually from John Marshall. I now have 4 grandchildren, and when I look at the schools today, I do not recognize them. It is a place of academics that are falling. The top 3 high schools are below the national average. The violence has increased as reported by the Rochester Post-Bulletin. And the fiscal budget, I am not able to keep up with the shell game. And so that is the reason that there needs to be something that happens. Children need academics, and there is a huge, huge push to actually push social, emotional learning over academics, social justice, equity, and this is being put on the teachers. The parents are not happy about it. We've spoke to many teachers and parents, and there is a shift going on that is not helping our students academically, and you can just look at the statistics. It's there. They have a strategic plan for their solution, and if you look at that and you read it, there's not one item that even addresses academics. So they're just doing more of the same, and it's just unacceptable. And that's why I got involved. I want to make a difference for the kids, and isn't that who it's all about? So yes, I'm Kim Rashavi, seat number 5.
All right, and John Whalen, the 4th of this quartet.
Well, thank you very much, Jane. This brings back memories to me because I hold a associate in arts degree from Rochester. At that time, it was called Community College in mass media technology, and in a prior life, I was a radio personality. So, Jane, you're a legend in this town, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity that we all had, that you've given us to speak on these issues. I have left Rochester 3 different times and come back every time. So I believe in Rochester. I even believe in winter. But I'm so pleased that these 3 courageous women came alongside me after I rolled out this idea. I want to let your viewers know that I'm also a believer in diversity. But right now we have no diversity of opinion on the Rochester School Board. They are walking in a lockstep fashion and chasing every educational fad that is coming down the pike. And we have seen this for decades with No Child Left Behind, Common Core, many other programs that have basically failed to deliver for our children. And so that's how we came up with the idea of 4YourChildren, and just a little bit of education, because as we go and meet people in public settings and at their front doors and talk to people, we find that there's a great deal of confusion. So my running mates have indicated seat 6, that's Elena, seat 2, that's Ray, seat 5 is Kim, and I'm running for seat 4. Now the thing is, all of these seats are at large. So I think the best comparison is if you're residing in the Rochester School District. By the way, the school district goes beyond the city limits, goes up to Orinoco. It even goes a little bit into Wabasha County, believe it or not. And it goes, so people who are in rural areas oftentimes are in the Rochester School District. But this would be analogous to the mayor race or to the city council president. You can vote for all 4 positions, and we very much encourage you to vote for all 4. And of course, we believe the 4 of us are the best candidates, that we will bring new ideas, fresh ideas to the board, all with the goal of educating students for a productive adult life where they can be productive in society and contribute back. They are our future, and we are for them, for your children.
Okay. To you, we'll start with you again and have you tell, what do you see as the biggest problem facing the Rochester School District? Yep.
You.
Elena?
Yes.
Thank you, Jane, for asking this question. I honestly believe that the biggest problem is disregarding the parental rights. And I want to explain that there are families in Rochester, international families, and families with all kind of background, and families with all kind of faith and beliefs. And all their values has to be respected. But I don't think that our present Rochester School Board is respecting that, because they're slowly removing the parental rights and the ability to choose.
All right. Thank you, Elena. And Ray Parker, what is the greatest problem you see with the Rochester school system?
Well, the biggest problem that I see is it has to do with transparency. They do not allow much time for parents or community to speak to them during their meetings. It is not recorded as the meetings are. And nobody gets to hear the side of the parents, teachers, students, whoever may be speaking. And I think that's a travesty to those who have taken the time out to make those statements. The other transparency issues is the curriculum. It's very difficult to find what is actually being taught to your child, what resources are being given to your child, so that you can even have a sense of if you are agreeing with what they're teaching. The other transparency part, again, would be the budgets and how they get themselves into such deficits, and how do they come up with the millions overnight? I mean, there's just really a lot of questions that happen when they do those kinds of things. The other part is the strategic plan. It's 134 pages. There's nothing that's come out that's concise, that really shows what are they doing. Most of it's, we're going to create this, or we're going to come up with something. And everything is the same as it used to be. It's just rehashed. And so they really need to be transparent with what they are doing, what they plan on doing. Certainly they must have some plans, and instead of just rolling it out. So those transparencies.
Thank you. And Kim or Shavi?
I think one of the biggest things is the violence. I think that no matter what side of the fence you're on, everybody can agree that every child deserves to have a safe learning environment.
Absolutely.
That's just basic. The problem is that is not the case in the Rochester schools. The administration knows it. The Post Bulletin has reported on it, not once, not twice, but several times. There are no solutions. Their solutions are the same as they always have been, which is back to that social emotional learning, a sense of belonging, hiring more equity specialists. All that has its place, but we need consequences for misbehavior. You cannot have students misbehaving and being rude and ending up coming back to school the next day. There was even an ambulance called to one of the schools because of what's been going on. That is absolutely, it can't happen. And so for some reason, this current administration refuses to acknowledge that something different needs to be done. It is pretty basic. To take care of violence, you take care of violence. When it's happening, you have a consequence. You wouldn't run your home with just a free-for-all and trying to talk everything out. You have to have a consequences. And you know what? Kids like that. Kids like structure. They want to know what is acceptable and what is not. Let's do it.
Okay. John Whalen?
And just to piggyback on what Kim said, she's really an expert on this because her children and her grandchildren, she's spending countless hours with the two of them, with all of them. I shouldn't say the two of them, but she's a good resource for knowing that kids need boundaries. I'm a great believer in equality. I believe in the American dream, first talked about in the Declaration of Independence, the birth of our country, that all men are created equal. Do we have a perfect history as a country? Absolutely not. But this idea of systemic racism and instituting new discrimination in order to make up for past discrimination, that is absolute hogwash. That is so off the charts and so detrimental and so destructive to our society. And this is being touted, of course it's being touted in most of our institutions in the country right now. But my message to the voters out there is that this is something you can vote on. You can't vote on how a big Fortune 500 company is run, but you can vote on the local school board. And this is where children's minds are formed. And we want children naturally want to be friends and love each other. And I'm going to just take a quick illustration in this, in that there's a lot of interests that I have, and there's a particular addiction I have, and it's called tennis. I've been playing tennis for 51 years, and the highlight of my entire tennis time was when I was named the assistant tennis coach at Century High School, and I held that position for 9 years. And in that position, I saw kids, I mostly was with the boys, I only had the girls 1 year and the boys 8 years. And I saw kids of all races and backgrounds become fast, close friends and doubles partners on the tennis court and working together. And this goes back now 10, 11, 12 years. And in these last 2 or 3 years, as an overreaction to a horrible incident that we all know happened in Minneapolis a little over 2 years ago, the George Floyd incident, this overreaction is tearing people apart, and it's destroying all the progress that we have made in race relations since the 1960s when I was a little kid. And so I do not want the schools participating in that destruction. They should be participating in building people together. And also, here's a real quandary. We have a lot of mixed race people, and people are being labeled as oppressors and oppressed depending on what race they are. What does the mixed race person, what is the message to that person? So we have to stop this. We have to have equal opportunities, equal educational opportunities. We have to treat people as individuals, not as groups.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've all seen the findings of the test scores, and they have not been going up like we expected them to. And I know the pandemic caused people to lose educational opportunities. Elena Niehoff, how would you go about focusing on what they should be doing as opposed to what they should not be doing?
Thank you again. I would like to say that since 2008, all 3 high schools in Rochester have the fall in academics, and that is unacceptable because school board has over $500 million this year, and the money are not going into the class. A lot of money are going into their administrators or buildings or some kind of utilities or equipment. And what we plan to do, we plan to decrease the number of students in the class. We plan to increase the number of teachers and parents so that the children will have more attention in the class. And we will see the academics thrive.
All right, Ray Parker.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Ray Parker. I know that they've had the pandemic has affected the grades somewhat, but they were falling long before the pandemic started. The pandemic only accentuated things. And it all has to do, how much was fallen away and how much education was lost had to do with how long they were kept out of the classrooms. Direct correlations. The less time away from the schools, the better the outcomes for the children. The longer they were kept out of the schools, the worse the outcomes for their academic school time. So it appears that really keeping the kids in school is the best thing that we can do for them. And in order to make up for what they have lost already, I mean, we really need to examine what's taking up the most time in the classrooms and adjust that back to academics instead of a lot of these other programs that are getting thrown in there and given top priority. And so academics really need to be the focus.
Okay, Kim Rashavi?
Well, after speaking with several teachers and getting inside view, what we're hearing is their plate is getting too full. And it's not with academics. It's with grading to learn. So with a student, for example, they can take a test as many times as they'd like to within a 10-day period. Teachers are also asking to become social workers. So that means that even though your classroom has the ratio of too many students to the teacher, you're also expected to have conversations, and you're supposed to understand the emotional needs of each student, and that's going to take away from the academics. And we're just being told that they pile on more and more expectations, more faculty meetings, more learning about how to be better teachers of SEL and the social justice, and teachers are tired of it. They may not be telling you, but they are tired of it. And they need time to teach academics. They've had to scale back in what they have planned for their teaching day. They simply don't have time. So common sense again would say, what are your academic scores going to look like when this is what's happening in the classroom? And not only that, when you have kids that are misbehaving in the classroom and you become the police, not only that, now they've added cell phones and teachers are now expected to be cell phone police. So academics is just a small part of what's happening in our schools, and that's unacceptable. We need common sense.
Okay, John Whalen.
Yes, well, I think we could sum up what my running mates have said by saying this: let teachers teach. Okay. I mentioned that I have a 2-year degree from RCTC. I went on to earn a bachelor's and a law degree, and so I have a lot of education. I spent quite a bit of time in the educational process, and I'm a big supporter of education and lifelong learning. And I just am very concerned when I see a statistic like this, and this is pre-COVID. I mentioned that I was at Century High School as a tennis coach, and our tennis team, I forget exactly what year it was, I'm guessing 2009, 2010, right in that area. Our tennis team was the top academic tennis team in the entire state of Minnesota. We weren't the best tennis team, but we were the best academics. Our kids were fantastic. And now we see that Century's ranking in the state of Minnesota has dropped from number 20 of all the high schools in Minnesota down to about 163 or in that vicinity, which is just dreadful, and it's the highest ranked high school in the city of Rochester. So we are proud of Rochester. We want to get our city back up to high academic rankings. And I personally believe nothing in life is accomplished without discipline. So we have to have discipline. Are we talking about corporal punishment? We definitely are not. But we are talking about sure and consistent consequences for behavior and expectations of behavior. My running mate Ray had a tremendous suggestion that in every classroom there would be signage that says, this is what is expected of every student in this classroom.
Okay, we're down to our last 6 minutes, and I want to give each of you a 1-minute statement at the end, but what's the biggest issue? Is the issue whether they listen more to the parents, or they relegate to the parents the responsibility for each child, as opposed to what a teacher's group would say? And I mean, what's the biggest issue? Well, I'll start with you, Elena.
Biggest issue.
The biggest issue. It's not books. It's parental role. What's the biggest issue? And I know the biggest issue is education. That's the first one. But other than that, what really turns you on about the school board?
Thank you, Jane, so much for this question. I think the biggest issue is to respect the parents and their rights. Minnesota Statute 120.22 says that it's responsibility of a parent to teach the child. So the parent delegate their responsibility to the Department of Education, including to the school board as the local part of government. So saying that, we want to see the parents involved, and we want to see the parents just tell the school board what education they would like their children to be provided in the schools. And for now, we see opposite, that the orders are coming from the Department of Education regardless of the wish of the parents. Example, that is the sexual education, which not every parent consented to. There are education on the oppressed and oppressors. And from my personal point of view, this theory is very dangerous, because this theory caused so many problems in different parts of the world. So we do not need this kind of theories in the education of our children. We want the education leaders to listen to parents. Thank you.
Ray.
Okay, real quick. I believe the biggest things, it's going to be respect, it's going to be responsibility, it's going to be accountability, and it's going to be reflecting the values of parents and families. Those are the big ones.
Okay, Kim.
Okay, and for me, basic common sense again. When you step into a school, safety, you have to, that's the number one thing. Kids have to feel safe. That's why a lot of kids or parents pull their children out of our schools. Second of all, you're there to learn. What are you there to learn? You're there to learn basic educational skills that you can take later on in your life and actually use for your entire life.
Okay.
And then the other thing is transparency to the parents. I think after this COVID, I think people came back and just really wondered what just happened. And this is where you have all the questions and the school board meetings and all the stuff going on where parents are very upset. So we need all of that. We need common sense to come back.
Okay, John.
And I'll take these last few seconds to say that I'm a big believer in public education. I only went to one private school in my life. I got a good education, but public education is for everyone. We can't have an attitude of, if you disagree with something, get out of here. No, we're all stakeholders in this. Thank you.
All right, give brief closing statements. All right, Elena? Why should they vote for you?
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know we had additional time. I was seeing that countdown.
Yeah.
Why should they vote?
Okay.
My name is Elena Niehoff. I believe that my team and I we brought the true solutions to the problem. We want to honor our community members. We want to discipline and love our children, and we believe that we would bring the true difference in education.
Okay, Ray.
Ray Parker with seat 2, and I would ask for your vote mainly because I do have a stakeholder in this with my grandchildren. I love and a caring for all people, especially children. And I'm a lifelong learner, and I promise I will work hard. We have good ideas and good solutions to a lot of problems. So,
Okay, Kim.
Yeah, Kim Rashavi, or you'll see on the ballot, it's Kimberly Rashavi, seat 5, and I want to bring common sense back. I want kids to be going to school and learning academics, and I want parents to know what's going on. I don't, I don't want to see all this non-transparency and different solutions that are making 0 sense. Academics, let's do it.
Okay, John.
I want to make our Rochester Public Schools something that we can be proud of again.
absolutely.
I just celebrated my 50th reunion 2 months ago from John Marshall High School. And 150 of our 520 graduates showed up. And as I went around the room talking to people, I kept hearing this: the schools are a mess. John, I'm supporting you, do something about it. We don't want that. We want to be proud of our schools, and we want to bring that pride back. So that's why I'm running. I'm certainly not in it for the money, I can tell you that. In fact, we propose to cut the school board salary back to where it was before it was more than doubled a year and a half ago. I'm running for seat 4, and my opponent has been on the school board for 12 years. That's more than long enough. I appreciate your vote, and vote for all 4 of us so we can make real change. And please visit our website at 4YourChildren.org. There it is on the screen.
.org.
Thank you, Jane.
All right,
Thank you.
and we thank our 4 guests for their interest in the schools and their willingness to run for the school board. And we thank you for your continuing interest in the education at the local level, the regional, state, national, and international level. We'll be with you again next week, same time, same channel. In the meantime, have a good week and a very good night.